Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about taking toddlers to Disney World, things that worked super well for us, things that didn't work super well for us, and what we learned along the way. And so I just want to share all the information that I have with you here. I am Blair, if you're new around here, and I'm married to my husband Riley, and we have two children. We have a 3-year-old daughter named Nora and a 1-year-old son named Colin. And we took our kids to Disney World. It's been about 6 weeks now since we've been home, and we went for a week. We stayed at the beach club, and it was a fantastic trip. In fact, it was my favorite Disney trip that I've ever taken, maybe my favorite vacation I've ever taken in my entire life. There was something so special about seeing Disney World through our kids' eyes, and we just truly made beautiful memories all throughout every single day. So for us, it was a wonderful trip, very much worth it and worth everything that goes along with traveling with two small kids. Now, I have 2 single-spaced pages of notes to share with you. Like I said earlier, the wins, the losses, and everything in between as far as toddlers in Disney or babies or just little kids, kind of all encompassing the little kid age group. Before I jump in, I think it's really important to note that, of course, every child is different and every family is different. So what works for one child or family may very well not work for another child or family. Some kids are really resilient and they can flex around their schedules and flex around their nap times and their meal times, and other kids really cannot. They really need to stay on the same schedule in order for them to thrive. So you know your child better than anyone, assuming you're watching this video with the intention of planning a trip for your kids. You know whether it's going to work well for your kid or not, and whether it's the right time for them. For us, it was a great time to go with our kids. They did great, and we had a fantastic time. But for another family, it just might not be the right time. That's totally fine too. If I were only allowed to say one tip in this whole video, it would be the following. If you were a parent and you were taking your small children to Disney World, these are the things that you really have to remember above all else. First and foremost is to pack your patience. More than any other thing, being patient and calm and relaxed is going to make your vacation so much more fun than if you are uptight and inflexible and rigid, especially with your kids. The other part of this tip is to temper your expectations. You will still have a great vacation even if you don't do every single thing on the list. And I think having very realistic, tempered expectations when traveling with young kids is really, really important, because things are just so different than when you're traveling with adults only or with older children. So tempering your expectations can help everybody have a really great trip without feeling like they're missing out. And then finally, to be flexible. This is, if you've watched my Disney trip report from this trip, you'll hear how much flexibility was required for us to have a successful trip. Pretty much every day was very different than what I had thought it would be, but it was still wonderful. And we still had a really fun time every day. We just didn't do what I thought we would do because we needed to flex and change our plans based on the kids and what was going to work for our family that day. And so being flexible is super important. And then lastly, just having fun. I have heard some parents in Disney who are not happy. And I just want to go up to them and put my arm around them and say, I think you need to take a deep breath because you're in Disney World. Definitely, it can be overstimulating. Sometimes kids are having meltdowns. They might have been eating a lot of food that they don't normally eat, maybe a lot of treats and sugars, and they're on rides and they're all over the place, and maybe they're not getting good night's sleeps. And so the kids are kind of out of line at times. But as adults, I think it's important for us to be the grounded ones, not join into the chaos of all of that. So those are sort of like more emotional tips, but I think those are probably the most important that I can share with you. All right, let's head into some of the more practical tips. So the first kind of section of tips that I have are tips that you can take care of ahead of time before your trip. So the first tip is to order groceries to be delivered, which you can use any grocery delivery service if you're staying at a Disney property. Probably if you're staying off-site as well, you'll have to check individually, but I know at any Disney resort, you can go ahead and have groceries delivered from Walmart grocery delivery or Shipt if they have that in that area, or there's so many different grocery delivery services. Instacart, for example. And you only have to be present to receive and sign for the groceries if you are purchasing alcohol or any other item that requires an ID, like certain medications. Otherwise, Bell Services will just take your grocery order and store it for you, and you don't have to worry about it. So it's a great way to get groceries, get snacks for the trip, which we will talk about endlessly in this video, snacks and food. I feel like when kids have a steady stream of like protein and solid nutrition, even with all the wild treats they might be consuming, their moods are so vastly improved. So that's a huge, huge tip from me to you. Also with grocery delivery services, you can order diapers, wipes, sunscreen, anything like that that you would also want or need, water bottles, and have that delivered to your resort as well. So those things can take up a lot of room in your suitcases, and if you're flying and you don't want the responsibility of transporting those items, you can just go ahead and have them shipped directly to your hotel through a grocery delivery service. So that's the first thing. Definitely order groceries ahead of time. Disney groceries or any food items in Disney are going to be a lot more expensive than if you bring them in yourself. You can also pack these items, or if you're road tripping, you can pack them in your car. But I definitely would bring some food and not necessarily just rely on Disney food. It's nice to have a stash that you can keep in your diaper bag, in your stroller, and in your room that doesn't require you to leave to go and get. You'll also want to research the attractions in Disney. Whatever parks you're going to, you'll want to research the attractions in those parks and find out what your child can do. So your child might be tall enough but not old enough. They might be old enough but not tall enough. They might be both, but it's too scary of a ride. So you'll want to look into what kinds of attractions are available and what your kid may or may not like, or your kids may or may not like. I think this is a critical piece. You can watch Disney ride videos, pretty much any Disney ride video for any attraction, and see what the attraction's like if you're unsure. There are so many forums and blog posts talking about them. For example, there's an attraction in Animal Kingdom that is, I think it's called It's a Bug's Life or something like that, Bug's Life. And it seems like a very kid-friendly attraction, and yet it is absolutely terrifying to small children, and small kids come out of there just sobbing, and it's awful. And parents keep taking their kids in there because they maybe haven't done the research. So I think that's a really helpful piece of the puzzle. Just take some time to do some research and kind of rule out any attractions that you think aren't going to work for your kid or for your family. More importantly, make a list of the things that are going to be really fun for you guys to enjoy. Another thing to do ahead of time is to call Disney to reserve a crib, a pack and play, or bed rails if you are heading to a Disney resort and you want any of those things or a combination of any of those things for your child or children. You can do that ahead of time so that you don't have to haul those things with you, and they will be there upon arrival. This next tip to do ahead of time is a really fun one, and that is to watch Disney movies and read Disney books and just consume Disney content so that when you get to the parks, your kids know what's going on and they recognize their favorite characters and they recognize like what's going on in the parks. So many of the Disney movies are even, Snow White or Little Mermaid. Even that for our kids right now, those are too dark and too scary. There's certain parts of them that our kids are just too spooked by. So instead of doing that, we have these really cool Disney bedtime story books. I think they're called like 5-minute bedtime stories. And we have like 3 or 4 of the volumes. And they pretty much cover every main Disney character that's in all of the parks and all of their stories. And they're really cute. And they truly are like 5-minute bedtime stories. So when we were preparing to go to Disney World, we spent a lot of evenings reading through those 5-minute storybooks. And then when we got there, it was really fun, especially our 3-year-old really recognized the characters in the parks and was able to point them out. And she wanted, a Goofy doll. And she really kind of got it, which was really fun. So I definitely recommend doing that. If your kids are not already well versed in Disney, spending a little time doing that ahead of time will make for a more enjoyable trip overall. You can also watch attraction videos or Disney vlogs with your family to get an idea of what it's like each day. Again, I just think having expectations be reasonable and realistic and kind of understand that you're going to have to wait in line and this is how it's kind of going to go. That seems to work really well for adults and children alike. So definitely preparing in that way. Okay, this next section is strollers. If you were taking a toddler or toddlers to Disney World, you will need a stroller setup. We used our stroller as a mobile command center basically for the entire week that we were in Disney. That thing was loaded up, it was outfitted, it had everything that we ever could need or want. In fact, when I told my husband I was filming this video and I asked him if there were any tips he had, his only response to me was, make sure people bring a great stroller. So if you don't want to bring a stroller with you from home, or if you don't have a stroller that you think would work well in the parks, you can rent. There are so many stroller rental companies that will deliver to Disney. Off the top of my head, I can think of like Kingdom Strollers. We didn't use one, we brought our own, but you can certainly use one of those companies. If you just Google Walt Disney World stroller rentals, you will find a treasure trove of resources that you can access and make a rental reservation if that's going to work well for your family. Even if you don't have little kids, you would be so shocked at how many of even older kids are in strollers by the end of a Disney park day, because it is so much walking. On the day that we walked the least in Disney, we walked about 7 or 8 miles. And on the day that we walked the most in Disney, we walked close to 19 miles. So this is excessive walking that even if you have a kid who's very active, they most likely don't walk 7 to 19 miles in a day. So you're gonna need a stroller. You need to have a great stroller that just has an exquisite setup for you, so that when you are out of your room during the week, you are all set up with everything that you need. So let's kind of talk about the things that you need. So of course you'll need your diaper bag, which in our diaper bag, we of course have diapers and wipes, changes of clothes, snacks, sippy cups, toys, extra pacifiers, extra everything. All of the things that we carry in our diaper bag day to day are in our diaper bag for Disney, and then a whole lot more. You also want to consider bringing a stroller fan. We have a great one. I will link all of these must-haves below. Most of them are off of Amazon, and so I'll link them all below if you want to go ahead and check them out. A stroller fan is really helpful when it's hot in the parks because it blows cool air on your child, and especially we found it's really helpful for nap time. If we're trying to get a child to sleep and they're overheated, that doesn't make for a very comfortable nap time. So pulling the shade down over so that it's dark oftentimes makes it stuffy in the stroller, so then the stroller fan combats that. So that's really helpful. Also, a cordless white noise machine. We have a rechargeable cordless white noise machine that we keep with us all the time, and we can turn it on and just kind of hook it or set it right next to our child who's napping, and it just helps drone out all of the noise that goes on in Disney so that they can get a good stroller nap. I'll link that below as well. We have a great stroller organizer where we kept our drinks and our sunglasses and our phones and any other items that we wanted to be able to access quickly and easily. Also, changes of shoes or extra layers of clothing for anyone in the party. If you plan on doing rides that might get you wet, you might want a change of clothes or a change of shoes. If it's a day that's in the winter time and it might get chilly, or if you're gonna go into the evening where it might get more chilly, you might want an extra t-shirt or sweatshirt or jacket. If it's gonna rain, raincoats, you can load all that up in your stroller. You may want to bring a towel for sitting down, or, sitting in the hubgrass in Magic Kingdom, or blocking out a spot for your kids to sit on the curb during, a parade or something. Not necessary, but you might want that. Or for, drying off after a water ride or something like that. On a stroller note, we found that avoiding buses, Disney buses for transportation as much as possible, made our stroller life easier, because you have to break down your stroller when you get on a bus, and we had that thing loaded up. And so we did it multiple times, but it's kind of a pain when you have to take all the different pieces off and unhook the, all this, fold it up and get into the bus, and then reset it all up again to go into the parks. We did it. You just do it. It's not that big of a deal. But if you can stay somewhere at a resort where you have access to the Skyliner, or where you can walk into a park or two, or you can use the monorail, all three of those transportation options, and some boats, it depends on the boat, will allow you to just roll your stroller right on without having to break it down. So that's something to consider. Staying at Beach Club was great because we had access to Epcot and Hollywood Studios by foot or by Skyliner, and then we could walk, if we were already in Epcot, we could walk to the front and use the monorail to get to Magic Kingdom. So then the only park that we absolutely had to break our stroller down for was Animal Kingdom, which was really nice because we were loading that stroller up. Talking about food items now here for a second. I already mentioned how important I think it is to have some food. Something that we did not do that we will do on future trips is order a grocery delivery full of specifically breakfast type items to have in our hotel room. Little kids wake up very early, at least mine wake up very early. And oftentimes they would wake up and be hungry right away, and so we would all hurry and get ready, and then we would go down to the beach club marketplace and grab them some yogurts and, you know, some scrambled eggs and whatever, just a breakfast meal for them, Mickey waffles and things like that. It would have been really nice if we had a setup in our room, which we did have some granola bars. We had some stuff, but I would pack it out more so that we could just do breakfast in our hotel room for the kids every morning. And then at maybe 10 a.m. when Riley and I were getting our coffee and maybe our breakfast, they could have something else then, but at least right upon waking up, because that's what they're used to doing. Right when they wake up, they pretty much get breakfast within the first 30 minutes. And that was hard to accomplish. If this sounds similar to your family dynamic, I definitely think cereal and milk, yogurt, applesauce, yogurt or applesauce pouches, granola bars, anything easy like that you can keep in your hotel room or keep in the fridge in your hotel room, definitely very helpful. Along the same lines, having plenty of snacks with you is critical. So we just brought in our suitcase a whole bunch of snacks for the kids, and I was so glad that we did, because it really helped to give them a snack when we were walking into the parks in the morning, or when we were coming back in the afternoon, or like whatever, when we were walking around in between different attractions or activities or whatever it was. Kids getting snacks and some water was super helpful. Along the same lines, you definitely want to make sure that you have some kind of sippy cup, any kind of sippy cup that has a lid or a straw, because if you know, you know, there are no straws and lids in Disney parks right now. Well, they have straws, but they're those awful paper ones that melt in your mouth and taste like you're sucking on drywall. So your kids probably won't love those. So making sure that you have some kind of refillable water bottle or container for them is really critical. So we just have these 2 little water bottles for the kids. They almost look like little baby Yetis. They're really cute, and they have their name etched in the side. They're from a cool Etsy shop. I will link those below as well. And those are great because they're insulated, and so we could put ice water in them in the morning, and they would stay cold until they were drunk by the kids. So that was fantastic. Lots of snacks. Don't skimp on the snacks. It's always better to have more than less. You can obviously buy food anywhere in Disney, but again, you're going to be paying a premium and you have to wait in line. And some of you know that when your child starts getting hungry, you just have a short window to really nip that in the bud and give them something to eat before it starts unwinding further. So it's helpful to have snacks in your stroller arsenal and in your hotel room as well. Some must-haves that I want to share that are mostly sanitization related are the following. Again, I will link them below if that makes sense, but things like definitely hand sanitizer. You definitely want hand sanitizer. Beyond hand sanitizer, what I actually really preferred to use with the kids were wet wipes. So I think they're called Wet Ones. I bought this huge mega pack on Amazon that had like 10 or 15 of the smaller individual packs, and we kept those individual packs straight up everywhere. We had one in the hotel room, we had 1 or 2 or 3 in our diaper bag, we had a couple in our stroller, we kept them in our pockets, we kept them everywhere. And we wiped down the kids' hands and wiped down the stroller and just tried to use them throughout the day to keep things as sanitary as possible, because of course kids touch everything and there's germs everywhere, and we want them to enjoy their vacation, but we also don't want them to get like super sick. So the Wet Ones were awesome. Also because they're wipes, they're just really easy to get in there if your kids get sticky, if they're eating something, whatever. So I really recommend those, and I would not bring just 1 pack. I think we went through 6 full packs, pretty much a pack a day. We were there, for 7 days, but for 6 days really in the parks, and we used a pack a day. So definitely buy a bunch of those wet wipes. We brought disposable placemats, disposable bibs, and disposable potty covers. I recommend all 3. I got them all off Amazon, and they were just wonderful. Again, being able to, the disposable placemats actually have a peel and stick like edge, so you can stick them down on whatever table or surface your child is eating on, and it's like a thin plastic piece, so it's waterproof, and then you can just use that as like a plate. So for our son, who will chuck a plate like a frisbee because he's a 1-year-old, we just would put the food that he was going to eat right onto that placemat, but it was sanitary and clean because we had just gotten it out of our diaper bag and laid it down on the table. And it's stuck down so he can't pull that up, so that's awesome. Also, disposable bibs, we use those for both kids. It's great if you're doing ice cream or popsicles. And then for my son, who's 1, for anything that he's eating, it's great to have him in a bib. And then the potty covers are awesome. So awesome. They are these long, they kind of drape down to the floor. Also got those off Amazon, all 3 of those. So I will link those below as well. They drape down to the floor because a lot of times when toddlers are using the bathroom, because they're so little and the potties are so big, they end up putting their hands around the edge of the potty to stabilize themselves. And then they've got their hands and it's just, so these cover that. Definitely recommend. Definitely recommend. You also may consider bringing Post-it notes to cover up the sensor for the automatic flushers if you have a child who is sensitive to that noise, because they are rather loud. We sort of desensitized our daughter to it. I took her with me and I let her hear what it sounded like, and I said, see, it's not that loud, it's not that scary. And she was like, no, it's not that loud. And there were a couple of times during the course of our trip where it would go off when she was using the restroom and she was like a little bit spooked by it, but it wasn't a big deal. For some children, it would be really scary. It's quite loud. So if you think your kid would be freaked out by that, the Post-it notes are great because you can stick one on the back of the toilet over the sensor so it won't auto flush while your child is using the potty, and then you can throw it away afterwards. So that's definitely a great tip as well. And then I have again on here sippy cups with lids and straws for water or whatever else. So definitely don't forget your sippy cups. You can buy them in Disney too if you need like little cups, but it's easy to bring them from home. One thing that was a really big hit that really sort of hit the reset button for my kids was cold treats. It was actually quite warm, even though we went late January, early February. The high every day was about 87 or 88 degrees. So not as hot as it is in the dead of summer, but warmer than we've ever had it be when we have visited in the winter time. So popsicles and other cold treats were really, really helpful. I think just in the same way that they cool you down and they're very refreshing, we felt like when our kids started getting more wound up and they were having a harder time behaving or waiting in line and they were just kind of starting to kind of teeter, we would get them some water and then we would go and sit down and get a popsicle in the shade. And it's amazing. It was like they just took a deep breath and relaxed. So popsicles definitely can be super helpful. Next on my list for toddler tips is to utilize Disney playgrounds and play areas. There are so many blog posts and articles and videos. If you just Google Walt Disney World kids play areas, then you can learn where they all are, where in the resorts they are, and where in the parks. There was a great playground that was in Epcot that we utilized a couple of times, and it's just really great for the kids to be able to get out and play. When you're traveling to Disney World, they're either in the car for a while or on an airplane for a while. And then you're getting to the hotel and they're in a small hotel room. And then you're waiting in line, which is confined. And then you're on a ride vehicle or sitting in an attraction, and that's confined. And kids just aren't built to be confined like that all day long for 7 days straight. So we really sought out time and places for our kids to run free and play every single day. Now, we were staying at the beach club, which was a great place for this because there's a sandy beach area, but there's a netted fence that goes so they can't get into the water, but they can play in the sand. Then there were grassy areas that they played in. They loved climbing up some of the low, retaining walls that were around the beach club. In Epcot, in the Mission Space area, there is this kind of circular, almost totally confined with the exception of just the little entrance, little courtyard that has some planets in it, and it's at the entrance to Mission Space, and then Space 220, the new restaurant, is on the right-hand side. And we let our kids run free in there because it kind of kept them contained. There was no one else in there. Over in Hollywood Studios, in Galaxy's Edge by the Millennium Falcon, there is a pretty large courtyard area, and there was definitely some people posted up taking pictures and things like that, but there was a lot of open space, and so we let the kids run around and play there, which was fantastic as well. So my point is, if you're worried about behavior or thinking my child is never going to wait in line, they may not want to wait in line all day long, but in my experience, they were a lot more willing to wait in lines, short lines, I will say, but they were a lot more willing to wait in lines when we were making sure to sprinkle just free playtime throughout. And honestly, that was some of our favorite times during our whole vacation. Oftentimes, we would head somewhere where we knew the kids could run free and play, and Riley and I would get something to eat or a coffee or something like that, and we would sit and watch the kids play, and it was very relaxing and really nice and made for a good kind of reset. Something that I've known about for a long time but never experienced until this trip are the baby care centers that are offered in all the parks in Disney. So I only utilized the one in Magic Kingdom, but I was absolutely blown away. There were 2 attendants right when you walked in to welcome you. There's stroller parking right outside. It was immaculate. Absolutely immaculate. There was like a soft play area with cartoons playing. There were toddler-sized potties for toddlers. There was a kitchen where you could get a bottle ready or prepare some kind of hot food item for your kid if you needed to. There was a private nursing mom's room that I utilized that had like rocker recliners, and each one had a really cute little table next to it with a little pretty lamp. I think it was in the shape of like a teapot maybe or something. Really, and then some plugs where you could plug in your phone or something else and you could charge it while you're nursing your baby or rocking your baby to sleep. They had like everything. It was completely set up. It looked like a full out nursery, and I was really impressed, and the attendants were just so helpful. And it happened to be that there were 2 men in there at the time, and they just took their job. They were like so prideful about keeping it so nice and clean, and they asked me if I needed anything else and if I could. It was a really, really extremely positive experience. It was in that moment that I was like, this is what Disney does right. Their customer service is just so above and beyond, and they had changing tables, diapers and wipes if you needed them. So if you have especially littler kids, we're kind of toward the end of really needing something like that, although they're still for toddlers. Like if you need a reprieve, if your toddler needs a place to sit down and you need a place to take a break and charge your phone or something, you could totally go in there as well. But for having littler babies, if you're nursing or bottle feeding and you need a place to get that set up and get going, use those baby care centers, because I was very, very impressed with them. Another toddler trick is that stickers are like the gold treasure of toddlerhood, I think. And pretty much every single cast member has a roll of stickers that you can ask for one, or they'll just offer you one. And so there were several times when Nora would get a sticker or 2 and she would just be so excited and she couldn't wait to put one on her. And sometimes she had like several all over her shirt. So if you feel like that would be helpful for whatever reason, if you need a bribe, if you need a reward, if they're waiting for other members of your party to ride a ride that they're not able to ride, find a cast member and just politely ask, do you have any stickers? And sometimes stickers are magical. They really are so magical. Another thing that I didn't mention that should definitely be on this list is I would highly recommend utilizing the Genie Plus system, which is the new like Fast Pass system. So with Genie Plus, you book lightning lanes, and the lightning lanes are the equivalent of Fast Pass Pluses, basically. It's why they had to change all the lingo is beyond me, but it's the same idea. It's the same thing where you are able to scan and then you get to the front of the line, basically. So that's really helpful with kids. And I would say that especially in Magic Kingdom, where there are so many rides that are great for kids, but a lot of them, even the simple ones, can have long waits, utilize those lightning lanes, and definitely they're worth the price, I would say, to be able to go and ride those rides without a long wait. Some of the queues have really fun interactive activities, like the Winnie the Pooh queue in Magic Kingdom has all kinds of fun things that are hands-on touch. You know, they can play with the honey on the wall, and then there's these little buzzing bees, and there's drums and all kinds of fun things. Keep those wet ones handy for sanitizing their hands afterwards, but that's really fun. The Dumbo queue is super cool because it actually is almost like a 2-part ride. When you get there, they give you a little pager like what restaurants used to use. Now they normally just will text you, but it's like a little restaurant pager. And then there's this huge indoor playground area that you can go play with your kids in. And then when it's your turn to go ride Dumbo, then the pager will buzz. And so you get to do like the play area while you're waiting and then immediately get on Dumbo. So there are cool little things like that that can really help with wait times, but I do not recommend planning on waiting a whole lot with your kids because it won't be fun for you or for them. It ends up just being hard for all of you. Along the same lines, I've mentioned this in my Disney vlogs if you've been watching them, but there is an app called Standby Skipper. It's $45 for a week or $25, I think, per day. And basically, you purchase Genie Plus on the morning of the day that you're going into whatever park, and then you purchase Standby Skipper separately. But like I said, you can do $45. It gets you the whole week. And Standby Skipper, you link with your Genie Plus, and it will automatically book your Genie Pluses for you, so you don't have to be on your phone, which I loved. So you can set to what you want. So I set in the morning of our Magic Kingdom days that, you know, the things that I wanted to ride Peter Pan, and I wanted to ride Small World, and I wanted to ride Pirates. And then I would just get notifications throughout the day as my time windows opened that Standby Skipper had actually gone ahead and booked those passes for us, those lightning lanes. So I didn't have to be on my phone fishing around for passes, which is really helpful because with 2 little kids, you're always kind of scattered, you know, and there's like a lot going on all the time. So not having to also think about my timeline for getting my lightning lanes was really nice. Another tip is to utilize companion restrooms. There are companion restrooms scattered all over the parks, all over Disney World, and they're so useful, and they're exactly for young families or anyone else who would need a companion with them as they go to the restroom. So there's a changing table in there, there's a toilet and a sink, and they were just lifesavers. The 4 of us would go in together. I would help one child go potty. The other one of us would change our baby's diaper, and then we could use the restroom if we needed to, just get freshened up. Our whole stroller would fit in there because they are wheelchair accessible, so they're nice and wide and open. So we could roll our stroller in, everybody could get everything done that they needed, and then we could roll our stroller out. That is a huge time saver because otherwise it ends up taking like double or triple or even quadruple the amount of time if each person is kind of individually taking care of themselves in the restroom. It's just a lot easier if you all can go in together. So companion restrooms for sure. Certainly there are more things that I could say, but I just want to say that if it would work out for your family and for your kids, I just have never believed the whole like, oh, well, your kids won't remember it thing. Now, if you're only going to Disney one time and you know that and it's a once in a lifetime trip, I personally would probably not take my 1-year-old. I would wait until he was 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 or something where I know that he would really be able to enjoy all of the rides and everything that Disney has to offer. But because we like to go to Disney more frequently than that, this is a memory that I will keep with me forever. I mean, having my precious little kids in their little matching cute little sister mouse, brother mouse outfits, like enjoying Disney and running around with their bubble wand, like precious memories to me that I wouldn't give up for anything. And so for me, it was very much worth it. For us, it was very much worth it to take them at these ages. And those are kind of my thoughts on that. I hope that was helpful as far as overall top tips for Disney with toddlers. There are so many more resources about this online. Again, if you just Google Walt Disney World with toddlers, you'll find endless articles, videos, blog posts, creators that have dedicated their whole channel to talking about Disney with little kids. And so you can find lots of great tips and information. But at the end of the day, if you can be flexible, temper your expectations, pack your patience, and remember that you're doing this to have fun, I think that you'll just have such a great vacation. You're going to enjoy it so, so much. So those are my tips. I hope you have a great trip with your family and with your kids, and I will talk to you guys soon.